Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for sticking with us this far in the symposium. My name is Dr. Steve Hickman. I'm a coordinator of Educational Technology Services here at the Riverside County Office of Education. And I, along with my colleague Heidi Baines, who occupies the same position, will be facilitating our discussion this evening. Now, our theme for our symposium this year is equitable engagement through esports. And we'll certainly be addressing issues of equity this evening with our panel that represents several different facets of the esports ecosystem, both inside and outside of education. We say equitable engagement, however, because there may be no other leisure activity more universally embraced in one form or another than video games. And while schools do a very good job of providing highly valued extracurricular activities for students, there's still a significant number of students who simply go to school, often because they have to, and then go back home and engage in their favorite activity. And in many cases, that's video games. Unsupervised, without an emphasis on learning anything but the game, often toxic, sometimes misogynistic, even racist, and lonely. Scholastic esports seeks to be the opposite of all that. And when it's embraced throughout K-12, as I believe it will be, it will have a positive effect on the culture of gaming in general. There's so many positive academic and social emotional outcomes related to extracurriculars that to miss this opportunity to engage students, especially those not involved in traditional school offerings, is like having thousands of dollars to invest and not buying Apple stock when they first went public in 1980 at $22 a share. Our panelists' bios are available on SCED and on our symposium website. But with our first question, we'll give each panelist an opportunity to briefly introduce themselves and respond to that first question. After that, we'll ask the questions and the panelists can choose to respond or elaborate on the responses of others. The goal is to have a fruitful and informative discussion about many aspects, benefits, and challenges of esports, and not necessarily to get through every question we planned. And so with that in mind, I'm going to give way to Heidi, and we can get the discussion started.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hickman. Okay, so for our first question, this is for everyone, so we hope we can whip around quickly to each of you and have you tell us briefly a little bit about yourself and some of the ways that competitive esports has had an impact on either your life, your career, or the life of others that you have observed. And I'll just open it up to whoever wants to jump in first. Go ahead and unmute and we'll whip around.
I don't mind starting. This is Peter Whitmore. I am the Technology Innovation and Assessment Coordinator here in Moreno Valley Unified School District, and I support secondary education and college and career. So I have lots of hats. But to answer your question about how esports has had an impact on me, this is the hat that seems to fit the best. It has given me a purpose in my career that I haven't had since I was in the classroom. And it's been a few years now since I've been in the classroom. And the reason I say that is what I'm working on when it comes to esports, I can draw a direct line to the kids in the classroom and see the impact that it has on them. And so I leave work every day knowing that the efforts I'm putting forth are making kids' lives more positive. So it's really energized me as a professional, and it's opened up opportunities for me to meet some of the smartest people and most caring people around the world, especially through NASF, about whom you'll hear plenty, I'm sure, going forward. So that's me in a nutshell.
I don't mind going next, Heidi. Hello, everybody. My name is Tom Panico. I am corporate faculty at Harrisburg University in the Esports Management Department, where for the last 2 years I've been helping to build our curriculum for a collegiate esports management program. I certainly did not intend for esports to be part of my career. I simply, as they say, was in the right place in the right, several periods of time. I've been in the gaming community since I was, 1 years old, maybe. And for the majority of my life, it was simply a hobby. It was simply, the community that I spent most of my time, associating with. And around 2016, 17, 18, I started looking around and seeing all of a sudden people are caring about, games that I had played long ago, saying names that I knew of from, in the mid 2000s from the watching Halo esports or StarCraft esports. And, I kind of latched on to the idea that, okay, there's a moment where something that's been important to me is now important to a lot of people. I'm in the right age bracket to where I have just enough work experience, just enough experience in the real world that I can start entering into it in it being the industry in a way that lets me provide support and guidance to all of the younger students that are coming up right now. I'm able to, close enough in age to communicate, I think, with a lot of my students, while also being old enough to bridge the gap between a lot of the business leaders and administrators and school administrators that are trying to figure out how to utilize esports to connect with our students. So I just mostly consider myself lucky to be in the position I'm in just exactly the right place and time that I'm in.
Awesome.
Great, thank you. Next, Christopher's next on my screen.
Perfect. I was already hovering over the unmute anyways. So my name's Chris Matthews. I am the COO and co-founder of Gamerabble. We are an esports coaching and community platform for players who want to connect and engage in a non-toxic atmosphere while getting rewarded for doing what they love doing the most. Personally, in another life, before starting Gamerabble, I actually spent most of my life as a daycare director. So I've worked with children for a long time, and throughout the years, I had actually attempted to institute various forms of gaming clubs. This was really pre-esports, and being able to bring students together in different ways. And one of the things that I found remarkable was that the gaming sector was in a lot of ways for these kids a big equalizer. Not every kid out there is the fastest kid when you're playing sports. Not every kid is the biggest kid. Not every kid is going to be the smartest kid. But if you give them all a controller, it's a big equalizer, and they're all on a similar plane. And being able to give that sort of confidence and pride in what they're doing with these kids that ordinarily are just sort of on the sidelines when you're playing soccer or football or whatever it may be, playing outside was just amazing. So them being able to connect and feel like, yeah, there's something that I can be good at too. Additionally, they found themselves actually being able to socialize with a lot of these kids that normally wouldn't have given them the time of day because they were seeing it as an other. So being able to institute these sort of programs and esports is amazing just on a social level for so many kids, to be able to give them an opportunity to do things and be a part of things that ordinarily in the past they weren't able to do. So that's just one of the many stories as far as, what I have seen personally with esports and gaming and how it's been able to affect myself and those around me.
Thank you.
Can I go next?
Yeah.
So my name's Jasmine Randolph. I go by JazRez online, but I'm a 21-year-old content creator, and I'm the founder and CEO of an esports organization called Team Inferno. We're dedicated to increasing representation of, BIPOC creators and players, as well as women in the esports industry, as well as just creating a safe space for marginalized communities in general. as far as like how has esports really impacted my life, considering my life is just getting started, it's been everything for me. It helped me discover my like entrepreneurial spirit that I didn't know I had. And it's also helped me with my mental health. My depression, anxiety is huge for me. So being able to find a community online and like kind of escape that, I guess just the real world temporarily just really has helped me throughout the years. Um, and it's like, it's created like a career pathway that I didn't know existed. Because I mean, as we pretty much all know, like school doesn't really talk about games in this positive light, like until people like us are trying to change that. But yeah, for so long, like I didn't think I could do anything with gaming other than be a game developer, but that wasn't really where my passion lied. So now that I get to play games, be entertaining, and like be in the competitive environment of it, it's just really just opened up so many doors for me, like this one. I also was like super shy as a kid too. So esports has helped me like come out of my shell and like, talk in front of people and just do different things that I didn't think I could. So it's just amazing for me, honestly.
Love it.
Thank you.
Happy to go next. So Kahlil Keys, I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives at Gen.G Esports. So we are a professional esports organization with competitive teams in League of Legends, Valorant, Overwatch, most recently Rocket League. And prior to Gen.G, I had worked in more quote unquote traditional sports. So I worked at Major League Baseball headquarters. I worked on the SoFi Stadium development project. But for me, sports was really working in sports was an opportunity to bring people together from different backgrounds, to really highlight our commonalities and to really showcase just equity within that space. And I think what's been really exciting to me in entering kind of the gaming and esports realm, particularly I joined Gen.G in 2020 during a very tumultuous social and political climate, was how this really can be an equalizer, how this can be a platform to again highlight our shared commonalities. And even looking at Gen.G specifically, we really aim to be a bridge between the East and the West. So we have headquarters in Seoul, Korea, in Shanghai, and then in Santa Monica is where our North America headquarters are. So I think that's what really excites me, both how we've done that at the professional level with our competitive teams and players, but we also have a major emphasis on education. We have a fully accredited high school in Korea, and we've really seen a lot of students who may have fallen off the traditional academic track, may have been underperforming, but now their passion and interest in gaming and esports has helped them receive college scholarships, pursue careers in the industry. So that's what's really excited me being in this space and just the amazing people I've been able to meet along the way.
Guess I'm up next. Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Lay. I am Santa Ana Unified's, I'm at Lathrop Intermediate. I'm actually a teacher. I'm a teacher. First, I'm a math teacher, so you can count on me. Second, I am a CTE instructor, so I actually teach my students about esports. So I'm telling them about this crazy world of esports and the careers that they can explore in it. And not only that, but I am also the club advisor and I'm also the club coach. So we've had a chance to have some of our teams go compete online, and we've had a Valorant tournament last year in the spring. We are also working right now for a Smash tournament within our district, and it's so crazy. And how did I get here? Well, I used to be part of the UCLA competitive Smash community at UCLA, so made it to top 3. Turns out my roommate was the best player there and spent a whole year getting my butt kicked by him, and that got me to become one of the best at the school at the time. So now I've taken that forward and I've just coached some of my friends. One of my proudest things to see is my friends, after they were very casual players, and after I coached them, they placed 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at their first tournament. So that was really cool. And then now I'm coaching students. I'm getting certified for esports coaching. So I'm like, I've never thought I would ever be in a actual coaching program. And that's what I'm here for. And one of my favorite things that I've gotten to see is, so I work with predominantly mostly middle schoolers, and I have a 6th grader who came into school last year. This young lady, her name is Valeria, and she is the quietest student you'll ever see. She hardly talks to anybody, kind of just keeps to herself, but it just so happens that she's in my esports club. She turns out to be actually the best Valorant player at our school, and we all entered into a tournament, and we were the only middle school to battle against other high schools. and because the other middle school dropped out, and she actually aced an entire high school team in one of our matches. And that really turned a lot of heads. And this school was one of the better schools in our district. And so it's just amazing just to see that there's so much hidden talent out there and representation to be had. And but just to see how everybody in our community, this really quiet young lady is like the hero, the celebrity at our school for being the best player in Valorant. So that's what I'm here for, to really help our students feel welcome and to just continue on this journey with you guys all. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Paul Fornelli for The Block. I wanted to say hello and my background a little bit. I am part of the Communications Department faculty at California State University, Dominguez Hills, also part of our Academic Senate Curriculum Committee, and part of our Esports Leadership Advisory Board. So my background is actually, I've kind of always followed the technology. I started in the recording arts and music business, and again, to date myself, this thing called MTV came along, and that led to video. My background is actually in news, sports, and video production, news journalism, which I did for about 10 or 15 years, segued over into academics. As I shared earlier with Steve, used to run an academic program that involved digital photography, web design, and multimedia, as well as film and video production. I watched that multimedia program grow, turn into a game development program, game programming, to the point that it became its own department. And now that I've been over at CSUDH, our President Thomas Parham, came over to us from Irvine. At Irvine, their Esports Association was their #1 student organization, and he encouraged us to build that same type of program here at Dominguez Hills. Hopefully, I'll be able to send you an invitation, all of you, at some point in the near future. We're going to be opening up a new research and competitive esports gaming lab. I think what really turned the page for me and for us on the campus is the pandemic. The need to outreach, the fact that, again, as folks have talked about, isolation, not feeling connected, keeping them engaged in school. The Esports Association did that. Those that were part of the group continued on. They finished their studies to the point that we were able to take their skill sets. We were able to work with the Compton Unified School District to create an esports summer camp, although it worked on different aspects of training, obviously. Part of it was also to let, again, students know that they could participate, that this wasn't, again, your father's esports program that's one against another. This is a collaborative process. It actually prepared those students to come into, at the time, what was a totally online study environment, as well as they picked up skill sets, proper etiquette rules to engage with one another, and again, how to act in a collaborative manner, even though there was no physical contact. So as we start to emerge now post-pandemic, we want to take some of these lessons that we've learned, really expand on the program. Long-term, our goal is to create an academic discipline, a major in this. That's still going to be a few years off, but enough about myself. Again, thank you for the invitation to be here, and I will turn it back to Heidi, I think, at this point.
Thank you, Paul. And I'll turn it over to Juniette.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I was late. My name is Juniette Kang'a, and I am located in Clovis, California. I'm probably the odd peg over here in terms of I have never played a video game, modern video games. I mean, I have played in the past, right? And I am not an expert in esports. However, I kind of was thrown into this world after having worked for the last 17 years in the pharmaceutical marketing industry, because of a child that I have that kept nagging me about esports. And I decided to kind of dive into it and research it, and began to discover that there was more than just playing, that it could be educational. So in June this year, I finally caved in. I caved into a gaming computer. I caved into multiple games and him participating in tournaments. And then also reached out to various parents in my community who were homeschoolers to determine if we could be able to start a homeschool community for gamers. And we are the first official California homeschool team called SenCal Esports. It's been a journey for the last 3 months, just figuring out even how to log into tournaments and being able to play together. And, you know, just that whole forming of a team and them coming together has been had its challenges for sure. But then the greatest thing that has happened is we've seen a rising of leaders from the various students that we have. Most of them, Kevin, are very mathematical in terms of their background, so that's interesting, just how that resonates with them. And others are more artistic. And what we've begun to see is how these personalities are able to begin to work together, both in the curriculum, from a curriculum perspective, as well as from a gaming perspective, and how they've taken hold of their gaming, since none of us, their mothers, are gamers. We're, you know, just mothers who have a passion for our children. The other thing that I do is I am a doctorate student at Bridges Graduate School of Cognitive Diversity. And with that, I began to explore a lot about interest-based learning, which is why I kind of caved into this gaming idea and being able to use esports as education, just because you find that a lot of children who are what we call twice exceptional are left in the margins and are ignored because of the fact that they're not able to quite fit into regular activities, as well as just being able to be social. And being able to play esports allows them to have that community, and as Jasmine said, in a safe place where they're able to connect. And I've seen a lot of that come up, especially the rise of the pandemic and research that I've done along the way with regards to being virtual versus being in person. And you begin to see them even make those connections when they do meet in person. So I won't say much more because I know that we've got to dive into more questions, but thanks for having me on the panel. And I may not have a lot of great tricks and tips in terms of gaming, but I do know that I have all of the passionate ideas here.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about you. So the next question, I think all of you touched on this a little bit, so we'll just kind of expand on this idea of belonging. A lot of scholars and educators and observers argue that esports helps to foster a sense of belonging in school, especially among the students who are not involved in traditional extracurricular activities. So what are some of the reasons that you think esports really fosters that belonging? Well, why is that the connecting piece? And this is open to anyone. You unmute and have at it.
I can, at the very least, speak from the perspective at the collegiate level. The thing that's very unique about esports is that the communities already exist there. Students, young people have been organizing communities within the video game, genre for 3 decades at this point. So when you start bringing gaming into schools, you're not just bringing individuals from disparate places and trying to, make them play together well. You're already bringing people who have methods of communication in place, ways to recognize value in one another. Even if that value is as simple as, I know that this friend of mine or this other student is particularly good at this specific type of game, I now know that I can direct other friends to talk to them if they want to improve at that specific type of game. And like many of us have pointed out already, it gives a lot of students an opportunity to shine that would not have that opportunity otherwise. And one of the most interesting things about esports that I use is like my argument as to why esports is as important as traditional sports is that more people can participate in it. If you look at the average football viewer, the average person who watches the Super Bowl, most of those people, despite how much they love football, cannot go out and play football tomorrow. Everybody who watches any esport is playing that esport, maybe even playing it the very moment that they're watching those competitions. So because we have a community that is so easily able to begin participating with one another, I think it's that much easier for those connections to start to form between those students.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Jasmine, Joyce?
Yeah, I did unmute. I can speak from I guess the strictly online portion of it. So I created a Discord, and that has been extremely huge for my community, like with streaming and our like esports organization itself. There's nearly 2,000 people in there, but like we're all like actually making friends with each other as you would like just at school or whatever, but it's like through a common thing, like it's just video games, like, or it's a streamer that you enjoy or whatever it is. Like I've seen, there's been so many messages that people have sent me on Discord that's like, thank you for like providing this space. Like I really like found, like you're saying, like a place to belong. Like I enjoy it here, and just things like that. Like when I was playing on console, it would be like PlayStation party chats, but this just took it to a whole new level and just made it more accessible to a lot more people.
I'll speak next for my experience as an educator. So one of the things I like, everyone's been saying, esports is highly accessible. There, so many students can participate, and at my school, we have quite a varied amount of different students from different backgrounds. We even have some students with special abilities who are within our club that also play as well, and they are just as welcome. So one of the things I really enjoy watching them is that I think esports presents like a unifying goal. So I see a lot of this in terms of seeing like a teamwork happening in order to solve problems. So, and when you have to do teamwork, what do? You have to talk with each other, right? And so one of my classic examples that I love doing with my students this year is I actually tested their communication using the game Overcooked. So nothing's more fun than seeing a bunch of middle schoolers lose their brain because they can't communicate with each other. And then we have a very reflective conversation about like, what do you guys notice when you're stressed out? And like, how do you talk to people? And we had a really informative discussion about that. And we talked about what we wanted to see. So then all the students after that, they learned how to talk with each other, but we really agreed as a community that we should be really encouraging. And that if, setbacks happen, we learn to work with it and just stay positive despite the circumstances. And you just see students giving each other high fives naturally, or saying good games afterwards, and just feeling like you're part of something bigger. You're bigger, you're part of a community. And I think that's one of the big things that we get to do together that I really enjoy seeing.
If I can build on what Kevin just shared, I think above and beyond inclusivity, and as much as we promote gender equity and racial equity and economic equity within the gaming world, part of what we also stress is leadership and team building that goes in there, that the meshing of type A and type B personalities, and collaboration doesn't come without conflict. Let's deal with how to approach conflict, to take opposing ideas, concepts. We talk about, again, my background is production. So we talk about pre-production, production, and post-production as stages. In gaming, we tend to talk about preparation, play, but then also the post-analysis. Where did things go right? Where did things go wrong? Did we give each other enough autonomy to make decisions, or was everything too centralized in terms of how we move forward? And again, like I said, to learn how to be collaborative by going through the process of dealing with conflict and team building is, I think, significant.
So next, so when I think about belonging, I usually think about especially those who are kind of like twice exceptional or on the margins, as well as neurodivergent children. And you find that many of those, especially those who are autistic, tend to have expressive language issues and being able to look at somebody in the eye and have certain social etiquette. And when they get into gaming, it's you're able to connect with people. One, online, it's a safe place, but even in person, what I find in a room is that they're able to connect with a language that's common because they have understood it, they have practiced it, they've been there, they've understood the patterns as well. The other thing that, to Paul's point with regards to that prep and post-analysis, with the team that we are working with, that we've only had for 3 months, it's been interesting to observe these children get to the point where they have to consider other people's opinions and be able to negotiate for roles. For example, in Valorant, like, what are we gonna play? Who are you gonna be and why? And not just, I like this particular function and that is exactly what I want to do, but thinking about the collaboration and beyond themselves, which has been really interesting because at first it caused conflict, but then now with regards to choosing and collaborating, they're beginning to learn, oh, well, I'm part of a community and I belong here. So I think that also begins to contribute to it. I think the most important, though, is the fact that we know that over 90% of teens today are gaming. I always observe just the way socialization is changing in the world. And every time you walk into a room, everyone's like, what's the Wi-Fi? And they're getting on some kind of game, whether it's on their phones or real esports gaming. And even with younger children, elementary school children, the first thing that they do is say, okay, what's your Roblox account? You know, so they're already in that mode of, I just want to connect with you regardless of where you are. I am from Kenya, and when my kids connect with their relatives abroad, their first connection is really on games. Otherwise, they're not able to respond to just conversations on the phone like, hi, how are you doing? And what's going on? That's just not connecting. For them, it is a game, and they can be on for hours, and then they say that this is their best friend forever.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Kahlil.
Yeah, I think one additional point I wanted to make here, and one of our my observations that challenged one of my preconceived notions is when we launched an after-school program, we launched a 20-week program. I'm based in Sacramento, and the assumption was a vast majority of the students that would opt into this program would have no other extracurricular activities, and this would be the kind of primary program that they would be interested in. And that was certainly the case for several, but what was very interesting was there were a number of students who were participating in band, or they're also in basketball, and so there were competing interests that they had, but gaming was the common language. That was something where they could connect and ultimately facilitate really meaningful interactions and connections with peers that they may not have otherwise seen something that they could have so close in common. And connecting with the counselor after school, he's like, this is really amazing to see how these friendships have been formed. Now they're doing other activities in school, outside of school, and I have never seen them interact in any capacity. So I think that's one of the things that's really exciting too, is it really is pervasive in the way that it can bring different student groups together. Yes, many that are not participating in extracurriculars, but many, again, they're just, this is a side passion or a hobby that they're looking for more engagement in.
Thank you. I'm going to jump to the next question just to get your input on the next topic as well. But I will add that we've certainly seen all of those things when we visit clubs in our league as well, just that belonging and sense of a common language between all of these kids. But so our next question, we're looking a little bit at media. So esports has introduced new forms of media and media creation that have had a significant effect on society. So what are some of these effects, and what opportunities do they present for a new generation of gamers? Peter's unmuted, I think.
Well, I was gonna want to answer it.
Oh, okay. So
I'm gonna jump on number
ideas
four.
on media and some of you talked about media creation. What opportunities does this new form of media present for our students?
So me being like a streamer and content creator, I forgot to say this in my intro, but this is part of how esports has changed my life. Like I said, I was initially just looking at games, and I was going to be like a game developer. So I was in computer science. But whenever I discovered streaming and content creation and video editing and all this stuff, I was like, wait, no, I want to do new media production. And I completely changed my major and just went full force into this. And in terms of like opportunities, I've gotten a lot of opportunities with video editing and video production through Skillshot Media in Atlanta. And it's really allowed me to like kind of combine my passion. So I really am interested in video production and movies and things like that, but also esports. So I get to like combine those things. Recently, there was a $500,000 Brawlhalla World Championship, and I was I was the junior video editor there, and my edit got to be the show opener in front of like 50,000 people. So it's like, that's something I never thought I could do. And it's because of media production and esports at the same time.
And media convergence, as I've mentioned from my background, is a huge topic. Again, gaming is kind of that perfect overlap of online development, special effects creation that you might see from the film world, competitive gaming, add some game theory, computer science component, and it really is kind of the perfect overlap. For a more direct comparison, I said many years ago, I started in the recording industry. In many ways, music and video gaming share a lot of similarities. How we've consumed it, again, especially post-pandemic, the era of going out to a record store to purchase music versus downloading it, streaming that content. Again, with live music being limited for a couple of years, more and more performers, artists turn to, again, live streaming, online content distribution. We see it again with Disney Plus, with Apple, all of the different major studios, again, opening up streaming content, that a place that media can converge together. Again, for some people, it's a more passive form of media. For gamers, it's about interactivity. Again, it's about that shared environment and that shared experience together. Whereas again, sometimes film going can be an individual experience. We may laugh as a crowd, but the response is individual. In gaming, it really is more of a shared environment.
I did just want to touch on the music aspect of media too, like as it relates to gaming. Like I realize I've had like a lot of different pivots in terms of my passions. So at one point I wanted to be a music producer, and I kind of ended up giving that up. But when I got back into gaming and video editing, I realized I could tie in the audio portion of like creating these edits about these games, like, and just make like what I would consider a masterpiece. Like the way that I can connect like beats from like my favorite song to like the action moment when someone like hit this like crazy shot, it's like that is something that like that's content, like people actually enjoy that. And I just think there's like, even if you're not into competitive gaming or casual gaming, even like you could still be the editor behind the scenes or like create the soundtrack or whatever it is that's not just like playing.
Thank
One
you.
thing,
Yeah, go ahead.
one thing I would like to add to the conversation about media, even completely aside from the opportunities of that the media, streaming, either whether or not that's VOD through TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, the opportunities themselves are accessible to students. And even if those students will only explore those avenues for 10, 20, 40, 50 hours, the learning that they get out of that accessible exploration, I think, is incredibly important. I have students that after spending 10 hours playing around with different media platforms, whether or not that's Twitch or YouTube gaming, they all of a sudden are asking me, how do I do things in Excel? Because I read that I need to use these Excel plugins and I can get all of these effects. So the ability for them to start playing around with media in a format and in an industry and in an environment that they're already comfortable in leads them down these very questioning branches of interest, and really diversifies the interests that they have.
That is a perfect segue to our next question. I'm going to go over to Dr. Hickman for our next question. And I agree. I feel like I need some lights behind me because these lights are fantastic. So Dr. Hickman.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you're right. That lighting game is a number one here. So, so most of us have seen this graphic before, especially if you're involved in esports. And it describes the many career paths that esports can provide. And so, what are some of the examples of programs that you've seen where students are being prepared for these opportunities that might be described on this graphic?
I can talk about that one. That graphic means a lot to me. It's been a North Star for my team, Joshua Combs and Jessica Roque here in Moreno Valley. It is everything we aspire to be as an esports program. We've been able to focus on the competitive gaming side in year one for our program. And this has always been a dream to actually have kids run everything, like a little miniature ant farm, an esports ant farm. Every little person has a job to do, and they're building this amazing an event, for example. And then this started to happen just this October. We started to introduce them into our events. As we were getting a little more sophisticated, we have been inviting students to come to our in-person tournaments and run things. So we held a tournament recently at a high school. It was our end of season championship for Rocket League. So we had our top 2 middle school teams come and our top 2 high school teams come. And the competition was great. And equally as great were the kids who were running it. We had kids who were doing the lighting. We had kids who did the tech setup. We had kids who were doing the streaming and the shoutcasting. So we had kids in like a back room with who were projected onto the big screen in front of the whole audience, which other kids were streaming out to the public on our Twitch channel. And it was amazing. All the adults were not as exhausted at the end of this event. Like, oh, what a concept. And so that was really near and dear to my heart. So the things you're seeing on that diagram, more and more, we in Moreno Valley Unified are really hoping to make it part and parcel of what we do for esports. We've even created a 4-year strategic plan for all 15 of those pathways, because what we didn't want to do is say, hey, coaches, here's a nice diagram. Good luck with that. We just felt bad. I don't want to operate that way. We want to be, we want to have excellence on purpose. And so what we want to do, and we've had approval to do, is actually support the pathways. So for this initial year and next year, we're focusing on IT support, fandom and media art, event planning, and shoutcasting. Now, for shoutcasting, you need microphones. So, and you need a green screen. You need a, video gaming laptop or a laptop with video card. All that stuff that we don't just want the educational lottery to dictate the schools will have or not have. And so we got approval to purchase those kits. Again, we're about equipment equity, right? So each of the secondary schools will have a kit, so kids can authentically engage in that pathway. And I know through NASF's curriculum, I can't think of the name of it, the community curriculum, I can't think of it. I think it's New Jersey or Garden State Esports. They've come up with modules for all the different pathways, so which I thought I had to create this year. Like I didn't know that stuff existed. So that's been our North Star. It's been our shield for anybody who's like, it's just thumb monkeys. Well, no, just look at this. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. That's how fast it is. So that is what really energized me to get involved in esports. And now it's fun seeing the kids really engage in those pathways.
Yes, and Moreno Valley is certainly a leader in terms of, especially in Riverside County, as to how to really exploit the affordances of esports. So thank you for leading us in that.
Yeah, I'll add on to the conversation for the career paths. At our district, we are working to create a full streamline all the way from elementary to high school. But so far, we have middle school to high school. So my school is we already have Esports Essentials, which is our CTE course, and just introducing students to the career pathways that they can take. So within my class, usually students learn a lot about the different careers. They create roughly about a 5 to 8 year plan about how they want to get there. They take a look at the courses that we have at the high school level. So we have a local high school named Century High School. Century High School has more specific CTE courses for esports. So we have one about writing for esports. We have another one for just general esports. There's another one for game design, and it includes coding. But me at the elementary school level, I am just simply their gateway. So I just try to simply show them every single career pathway as much as I can and try to give them hands-on experience. So we'll do some projects. So one of my projects my students always remember is when I make them do their own shoutcasting video. And one of the funniest parts was I initially had it for my students to do it solo, but I had 2 students come up to me and they say, Mr. Lay, can me and Jimmy, can we partner together on the shoutcasting assignment? And I thought about it. I was like, that is what they do. So I was like, why not? So then you have both of these 2 guys just playing off of each other in the middle of the video, and they're getting hands-on experience about what it means to shoutcast. And they're talking in depth about the game, having the actual knowledge about it. And so that's the goal of my school, is just to give them those kind of hands-on experiences.
All right, thank you.
On the opposite end of that, so
Mhm.
Kevin, you are the gateway to a lot of these students. At Harrisburg University, I'm kind of the last stop that those students will have before they actually have to enter the industry. And I have a lot that I could say about this, but I'll try and keep it brief. One of the most interesting and exciting things about the esports industry is that compared to any other industry that I've ever been a part of, that I've ever, analyzed when I was in business school or had any exposure to, I have never seen in my life so many 21, 22, 23-year-old presidents, CEOs, CFOs, strategy officers, vice presidents. I've never seen so many young people in leadership. And that's simply because they are the individuals who know what this industry is. They are the individuals who know what this is about. We have a 21-year-old CEO in this panel right now. And because of that opportunity, these students are able to get their hands on actual responsibility so much faster. And what I've found is that the paradigm that we see in a lot of other industries, where you need to be entry level for 2 to 5 years, you have to spend a lot of time doing relatively rote work and tasks before you can get to any place where you can start leading, is a disservice to the brilliant young people that we have out there. So keeping in line with what Peter was describing, my goal with my students is to have as many of my classes structured in an applied learning environment that I possibly can. Next semester, I have no less than 4 student-led events that I am advising upon. I will see how many of those I'm able to actually juggle at once before I have to call in some backup. But we see that students who in other industries, in other environments, would not get the opportunity to really be in, say, a partnerships meeting, or write or respond to an RFP, or write their own proposals. At 20, 21, 22, students are asking me questions about, all right, how do I respond to all of these different necessities that this prompt has, or what can we do to get this other partner involved? So just having the entry be so open, allow the students to get their hands on responsibility and really prove that age is not the only factor that needs to be considered when you give responsibility to an individual. That, passion in some ways can make up for experience in a lot of these kids, has really enervated me to encourage my students to go out and look for responsibility, and to trust in them to say, the school needs us to run an event. I know that you all can do it. If you have questions, ask me, but otherwise, this is your show. Tell me what you need, but get out there and get it done.
Absolutely. Yeah. So clearly this should have been a 2-hour panel, because the answer is so great. And I just hate the fact that we're going to have to go ahead and cut this short. But I do want to ask this question. Are there particular challenges that Black and Indigenous and people of color face in the esports ecosystem?
Yes. So sorry, I was excited about this one. So I'm actually planning a tournament right now to address this issue. So at least take a step in the right direction. So there was a $10,000 tournament very recently in Apex Legends, and there was no Black creators invited at all, or content creators. And it was a whole argument that I was pretty vocal about. But even further than that, like at ALGS, like the $5 million LAN, there was no Black people on the stage. And it's like, oh my goodness, like what's going on? I know like we have the talent, it's just not being showcased, like what's going on. So basically I'm planning a tournament called Be the Change. And part of it is going to be highlighting not only the talent that Black creators and players have, but also the Black-owned organizations that are up and coming. So there's gonna be like 6 games, and between like, there's gonna be like 5 breaks. We're gonna have a 5-minute section for us to just, expose what we're doing, because like we're here. I don't know like how we are not seen more yet, but hopefully we're taking a step in the right direction.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, I'll comment on my end from the community that I work with in Santa Ana. We are a predominantly Latinx community. A lot of our students come from low-income families, and also as well, we have a minority of Southeast Asians, which are underrepresented for sure. Southeast Asians also have low-income communities as well. And so one of the biggest things is, one is just simply lack of access. I think that's one of the biggest things. Not all of our students have access to high quality Wi-Fi for gaming, much less even having PCs. And then even for some consoles. We typically tend to use consoles more because that's more accessible for all families and communities for people to share in. But when it comes to some of the games on PCs, it's really difficult. The other challenges that we also run into is just simply lack of funding. I think in our community, I still think esports, as I think overall in all our communities really, is still getting recognized as an actual sport. And so until esports actually has that kind of recognition within our community, it's really difficult because again, we just don't have that much access. We don't have funding for coaching or all of that stuff. And so one of the things that I try to do is also another thing is awareness and taking care of the myths that surround esports, especially for within our communities, because a lot of our parents, they don't know that there's so many opportunities in esports as a career. And so whenever they see their students, playing games, they will say like, this is a waste of time, but they need to know. And then at the same time, from our perspective, we need to be able to provide those opportunities within our school. But funding is a very big one. And yeah.
Thank you. Okay, well, we are out of time, but I want to give you 30 seconds just to share something that you wanted to share with the audience that perhaps you weren't able to get out in this conversation, because again, it's such a rich conversation that I would hate to leave any of you silent on anything that you wanted to share. So
if I could, I would like to defer my time to Kahlil. I was hoping to get kind of an international perspective. We just talked about the role of bringing more Asians into the community. I thought he might have some perspective. So I would like to cede my time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And certainly would love to connect further with anyone with interest on this. But I think that's one of the areas of emphasis with Gen.G as an organization. We really look to change the game. That's really our motto. We see gaming as really an equalizer, and ultimately we're strategically positioned in these markets because we want to be the bridge between the East and the West. And a lot of what we're doing is supporting and empowering and providing resources to underrepresented and marginalized communities. It's core to really, what we're looking to do, the initiatives that we run. We launched the Gen.G Foundation, which is $1 million commitment to provide scholarships to students from underrepresented communities. So would certainly be happy to share more, but appreciate the time, and that is a big area of focus for us.
thank you.
I just wanted to take a second to highlight one of my additional responsibilities at Harrisburg University, which is the internship coordinator for the esports management department. I'm always looking for opportunities to plug my students in with organizations who either need just an extra pair of hands to either run their events or an outlook on esports that you might not have otherwise. So if there is anyone who is attending this panel who thinks they could benefit from either a student volunteer or even a student intern, please let me know. I'm more than happy to connect you with some of my brilliant students.
We'll say that RCOE has a robust internship program, so we could use the help with our esports program for sure.
I guess I kind of wanted to touch on something that Kevin said about funding. That is super huge. I never knew what it was like to build a startup until now, and I'm seeing how big of an issue that is. Especially me being so young, I don't have a full-time job or anything like that to really help fund these things. So like seeking like sponsorship and stuff like that. It's just been crazy. And that like relates to this tournament I'm planning. We're looking for sponsors for that, if anybody was interested, based on the little bit of information I gave on that. But yeah, like part of that tournament isn't just to show off like BIPOC talent, but it's also to just have us in these high tier tournaments. Like Apex is kind of like on the smaller end with, or the lower end in terms of like third-party prize pool. So $10,000 tournaments are like huge for the community. So I'm looking for people to help support that. And yeah, that's pretty much it on that.
I'll jump in next. I just want to say how honored I am to be part of this panel and to be talking to the wonderful people who are participating in this event. And I want to give a shout out to Allison Moore and her team at Badger Springs. She's been watching this panel from, she's a coach, a classroom teacher, and she teaches 5 periods of esports elective at the middle school. And we constantly ping her because when we have visits, we often run through her class because she's doing full-on strategy sessions with League of Legends with her kids in a classroom environment, and she's doing centers, so they're moving from different parts of the room and in rotations. And what I love about her, and what I love about what esports does to not just the kids but the adults, is it really engenders in them purpose. And so this whole time when she's been listening to you guys, to everyone on this panel and on the other sessions, she's been writing me in our Teams chat like, hey, how can I get more involved? You know, I'm like, are you too busy, Allison? Like, I'm worried about, no, I know that, but so anyway, I just want to shout out to her and a big thank you, and for the wonderful program she and her teammates are running at Badger, and just want to thank this panel for lighting that kind of fire in the adults in this industry, because sometimes we need that, and appreciate it.
I wanted to throw out there, how important it is for the esports community, both on the public side and the private side, to help each other out, to partner up, to lift each other up, because we all need to get to the point, especially when we're talking on the scholastic side of things, to be able to stop apologizing and trying to explain why an esports program needs to exist. Nobody has to explain why a football program needs to exist, or basketball, or any of these other things. But for esports programs on the scholastic side, you're always apologizing for it. You're always explaining for it. And that leads to the lack of funding and the lack of opportunities. We have to be able to grab hold of what we have already. We cannot lose sight of what we've done. We need to help each other out, whether that's helping Jasmine out with what she's trying to do, or just trying to go across the lines with the schools or the colleges coming down and helping out with the middle schools and the elementary schools. Whatever that may be, it's extremely, extremely important on both sides, both private and public, that we all help each other out to actually put forth. If you see somebody doing good, put it out there, because it's going to help everybody out in the long run.
Well,
And then I'll just put in my point too, is my hope is also this will not be the last time we all really interact with each other on a community level. We are really putting new ways out there, especially for a lot of our students. And especially now that esports is becoming more bigger on the map, there's still also a lot of things to deal with in terms of even like safety, right? And so one of the things is, like, for us, we're learning at earlier ages about their involvement in esports, but my hope is it becomes official enough that we can also have all the support, all the investment that we can have from each other in our communities to create not even just a future for esports, but a safe one. Because we know within the esports community, there has been a lot of scandals, and mostly it has a lot to do with a lot of the players not having any accountability or someone to teach them the right way to navigate this new space. And we want to protect the future, but we also want to develop our young leaders.
Excellent point. Okay. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for your willingness to share and as you say, to really help to build this community of esports. I think it's just a critical part of us growing and I even hate to use the word legitimize esports, because it is a legitimate activity that really needs to be embraced, I think, in K-12 schools, and to really, as I mentioned before, to really just improve throughout. If people are learning how to do something, you know, there was a time when bullying was the norm in schools, and you know, schools began to focus on it, and it's not so much the norm anymore. It's not acceptable anymore. And so you think about esports, if we can get that down to the level where kids are growing up competing with honor and with integrity and with respect, you know, the hope, of course, would be that it would move forward up into the higher levels of esports, and when kids can compete individually. So again, I thank you so much for your willingness to participate. Would love to stay in touch. I'm glad this is being recorded, because I do believe it's going to be a benefit to really all of our people. It will be posted on our website, and we'll have all of the sessions recorded as well. So it'll be a great opportunity, and again, a great resource for all of our educational partners to really learn about how and what the benefits of esports can be. So again, thank you very much. And with that, you know, just want to, again, just thank you. Just wonderful, excellent conversation. So thank you. All right. You all take care.